Hello and welcome. There's a red bar taking absolutely ages to load. I'll just stall for a second. Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines NXT review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on YouTube and also available in podcast form within the hour, if I'm quick enough. Links in the description or head over to WrestlingHeadlines.net for your latest wrestling news. This was the NXT After War Games. All eyes are back on the Prince and all the kerfuffles within, essentially, the story of this show. This week, I've decided to not go solo, and I've brought back once again the man from One Nation Radio from Social Suplex. It's James Boyd. Welcome back, James.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here, man. I don't know what to make of NXT over the last month or so, but I'm glad you didn't invite me for any of the House of Horror stuff with Loomis. I'm glad you did. I'm glad. It would have been nothing but negativity.
When I watched it, I was like, oh, is it too late to invite him on to help me? On the day off. I was like, you know what, I won't invite him on the day off. I did that too many times in September. That kind of time. It's like hours beforehand. James, do you want to... But yes, I wrote a column on it over the weekend, essentially talking about NXT. You can go read it, Wrestling Headlines. It's no longer on the main page. You'll have to click about a bit, but it's there. So it was on the issue for me with NXT. To be fair, the reason my column isn't currently on the main page is because other people have been voicing their same feelings, their feelings on War Games. Just after Winter is Coming, War Games didn't bring you back to NXT. Because that's happened in the past, where there's been a big thing from a different company. In the past, really, it would have been New Japan. And then NXT would pull you back in with a decent show or whatever. Especially Royal Rumble time. Like, those Royal Rumble shows, you're like, oh, yes, NXT, amazing. And those shows were in the same month. You start off with Wrestle Kingdom, you end with TakeOver with, Gargano versus Andrade. You're back in. It's amazing, yes. War Games didn't really do that. Yeah, I feel it's maybe it's a different kind of era and things. So, Rich Latter in the chat. Is this the Kenny Omega celebration hour? I did say before we came live.
I mean, it can be. Yeah. I mean, that's up to Imp. That's totally up to Imp.
So I did say before we went live that we would talk a little bit about, I guess, the status of NXT and the run this past couple of weeks of the ratings destroying NXT. I say destroying. NXT have pretty much stayed the same these last 2 weeks. In the mid 600,000s or so, same demographics, which is the same story with Raw, same story with everything else. Just the same numbers, nothing really changing, not really going up, not really going down. AEW, they've built really, especially since All In. The numbers have kind of steadily grown continuously, and now they're just shy of 1 million. I think it was 990 something thousand this week. And,
I think 995 was the exact number.
Which would mean
I end up I'm in a bunch of different wrestling groups, so I end up getting the number every single week because it's a thing to certain people. I don't care. I don't give a shit who watches this. I care about who watches in terms of, oh no, I hope the show that I'm watching doesn't get canceled. But outside of that, I really don't care.
For me, it's an interesting kind of metrics to look at, but I'm English.
Right. Yeah.
No one cares what we watch. Who cares?
Well, it's interesting as far as the maneuvers between Sky has AEW now, right?
It keeps it a little bit complicated. WWE moved off Sky to BT.
Right, to BT Sports.
Yeah, and hence why you see so much promotion about it. And I mean, it's nice to have a network that cares. Sky Sports didn't give a crap. They just didn't promote it. If you weren't a WWE fan and sought it out, you wouldn't have known. And Impact drew the same numbers as SmackDown and Raw for years. So just to tell you how few people, because Impact is closer to AEW, where they were on one of the free channels. AEW's on a sub channel of one of the main 4 or 5 channels that we have in our country. We have 5 big channels, and it's one of the spin-offs of them. So
BBC, Channel 4, and what else?
ITV, which is Channel 3, and there's Channel 5, which people keep forgetting exists, but it is one of them. So it counts.
Okay.
They were big in the 90s and noughties when they used to weekly air a movie on TV type things, the TV debut of this film, and that was a big thing when you couldn't just type in the movie name online and be watching it in seconds. Back then, that was a big thing. But they've died down in relevancy since. But yeah, so they're on ITV4, which is normally they're used to repeats. So there's an account on there's something Rob on Twitter, and every single week he's running the numbers of did AEW beat repeats of crime drama Minder, and he compares the ratings numbers of those two because that's the real battle in our country. What did AEW beat Minder? And a lot of weeks it doesn't. Like Minder, for some reason, this random cop drama from the 80s gets numbers. I don't know why. I don't understand television in my country. It doesn't make any sense. But it is a free channel, which is like a major boost. WWE on Sky.
Okay.
You have to buy Sky, then you have to buy Sky Sports. So it's like a subscription within a subscription to get it. BT Sports is the same, but they're actually promoting it. So that's the difference. And they've got quite good kind of deals if you are within other networks as well.
Okay. That sounds similar to if you want to watch certain sports that are covered by like ESPN, for example. Like ESPN is a part of like a premium cable package. And then like if you want to watch, like, let's say college football here or college American football, then like the two games that you're going to miss that year for your team that you follow, let's say you're a SEC fan or a ACC fan, they have groups inside of major college football, whatever. Long story short, like if you're going to miss those two games unless you spend X amount of dollars for this ESPN package.
Okay, that's quite a good comparison. Yeah, so hence why with Impact being on a free channel, not a popular channel, but a free channel, that's how they can match the numbers essentially. There would be more WWE fans, but the ability to actually watch it, because of the price they'd have to jump, the hoops they have to get through, that's why the numbers would be lower. But hence why they'd be on the same level. AEW, apparently the numbers are climbing. So that the word's getting out that they exist. Yeah. ITV do no promotion. It's like they're dead. They're nothing. They are essentially repeats of Minder. They don't exist. They're just a thing. But wrestling fans know they exist and the word's getting out. And you know, wrestling fans here in the UK, we turned out for Impact, filled the O2 Arena and things like
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. I forgot about the fact that they went out there and that was only one time or was that twice?
I think they did it annually for a few years, I think. Like they went to the same arena. It was, again, the same arena that WWE would run Raw from until they changed it to Manchester for some reason. I can't remember why they did that. Maybe because Impact was setting up the O2. That we're going to set up a bigger one, so they go to a different city. Maybe that was it.
It could be that. It could be like some pricing thing because it's O2.
Maybe. I know BBC has also moved their headquarters out of London to Manchester as well. So there's a television link there. There's something about that. I don't know. Plus you got the two football teams for Monday Night Raw to never get correct which one to... Is it Manchester City or Manchester United shirt that you wear? And they always get it wrong every year. They never get the cheer. It's like, oh, come on, it's not that complicated. Just look at which side you are of the city. It's not that hard. It's like the two New York ones. I'm just picking the wrong side. Is it Giants and Jets?
A lot of that comes down to the borough you're from, because Manhattan is basically one quote unquote island, if you will. And then you also have like Brooklyn and Queens that are on one other that are on Long Island and whatever. And like basically like if you're on Brooklyn and Queens, like you tend to be like a Nets fan for basketball, a Islanders fan for hockey, a Jets fan for football, and a Mets fan for baseball. And then if you're from like Manhattan, you tend to be a Yankees fan because they're in the Bronx, a Knicks fan in basketball, poor Knicks fans, because they're in Manhattan. A Giants fan for football, and then for hockey, a Rangers fan because they are also in the same stadium that the Knicks are in. It's geographical. It's just like Man U and Man City.
Yeah. I think here in Nottingham, there's two teams, and our history is more older in football. But there's Nottingham Forest that I support, which are on one side of the River Trent, and literally on the other side of the river is the other stadium for Notts County. So like it's literally just across the river. It's that close, and you can see either stadium from either side. So it's quite cool that way. But here in the UK, everything's more compact anyway. So it's
I have a question. Is one just an odd question? Is one side nicer than the other? Is one side of the river and bridge is one side nicer than the other?
One side is closer to the, I call it like the boroughs of the city, and one's like a bit further out. So I guess the answer would be yes. The difference is Notts County are so far down in the different leagues that they never meet each other, so you rarely get to see it.
Okay, gotcha.
But you have to walk past the county ground to get to the forest ground. So you can, if you're coming from the city, just where the train station is, the main road, for the turn for the county ground is on the same main road to get to the forest ground eventually. So when you go on the train, you've then got to kind of walk down the same main road that you would to get there, to get a mix for a little bit. But again, county grounds are so far down, there's no angst. So it's a weird one where they've become so... We never meet, so you never get that refreshment of it. Compared to Forest Derby, where if a player kisses their Derby badge on their shirt, it's like the incredible, like Roman Reigns after WrestleMania, boos, just echoing. It's just incredible. Some of my favourite like audience participation kind of experiences was a player from the Derby team kissing their badge after scoring against Forest, and it just again Reigns after beating Taker, just solid boos. It was amazing. I mean, again, my team had just conceded, but that's one of my favourite memories. Just booing the hell out of that player. Yeah. For any nerds listening, I could try and remember the player, but again, it's 20 past 1 in the morning. Should probably get onto the topic of the show.
I was going to say, Imp, this is like the greatest digression we've ever had on one of these shows. This has to be top 3.
I should listen back to specifically our shows, specifically the start as well, because we always drift off at the start, just to see where we go, which is the top 3, Imp and James. Big turn. Anyway, let's bring it back. So we were originally talking about the ratings and things for NXT and AEW. Right. And they came out in timely fashion this week. That was nice of them. Alvarez making the gag of, really the big story is they got the numbers out in time. Like, well done, guys. You got numbers out. But AEW just shy of 1 million again, and NXT in the same 600,000 bracket. The bigger story being, again, the younger demos just aren't watching NXT, and in AEW, they're going up. For me, that was something I found quite interesting. It wasn't, it's the same number of younger people. Like, I would fit in that bracket, you would fit in that bracket, and we'd be in that demo. But more people of our generations are coming in. So that's interesting for me. It means they're pulling in an audience, which is not the wrestling story we're used to. The wrestling story we're used to is constantly just people dropping off, Monday Night Raw sending new records lows, which, again, I don't understand the argument of, but Monday Night Raw gets this number, you say it's crap. Yeah, in comparison to themselves. Yeah. AEW setting its own numbers right now. So,
yeah, like, I saw people, like, get upset with someone for saying that, like, Omega going on to Impact, doing, it's, 20% or 25% better than any show has done this year is not a success. It's not a success, or you can't call it a success if you are to point out that Raw had an all-time low third hour, like, this week. And it's like, I guess if you are talking in, like, the terms of it being some type of vacuum or zero-sum game, but if you don't want to, like, act in bad faith and, like, pretend that, like, these things aren't on the same levels and treat success based off of what they actually can accomplish, then, like, yeah, they are different ways to take those in. Like, Raw is a show that does that, just a year ago was doing like 2.4 million viewers. Now it's doing 1.5 in the third hour or 1.6 in the third hour. Like, Impact is lucky to even be on. It had to buy its own station.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Anthem had to buy the fucking thing. Like, nah, like, we're talking about something totally different. Like, it's, we were talking about success, and we'll go back to I was going to mention college football, American football here, but let's talk about, like, relegation in terms of soccer. Football. Sorry about that.
Thank you, James.
But it's like, yeah, like, like, it's different from being, like, Premier League and then being, like, is the difference between Champions League and Premier League and relegations. Like, there are different levels of success. It's just how it goes.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, and the numbers set by Impact as well. If we might totaled up, it's about 700,000. That's television plus Twitch. Well, for some reason that was plus YouTube as well. I don't know whether to include YouTube. I don't know if that was live figures or post figures. But
yeah,
because
YouTube's always creepy.
Yeah, but again, Twitch was like 200,000 or something, where they normally get 30, I think. To be fair, on Twitch, 30,000 is impressive. Like, for normal people getting on Twitch, like that's a decent number. That if we're talking about Zelina Vega, I say we talking about, that was me talking about weeks ago when she got released. Zelina Vega, her numbers on Twitch are similar to that. Yes, she's a sole entity, but she can like do a whole career on Twitch essentially with those numbers. Yeah, because to kind of like prove that those numbers are actually decent for Twitch, but they're not the numbers Kenny Omega drew in. That's the kind of big point there. That they are pretty big. But yeah, so when you watch the NXT product, I think one of the things I put in my column this week was it was just more about there's just a lot more weight to it. Like the AEW's like major benefit they've got is they are their main roster, so they haven't got any risk of their stories that they're writing for years or months down the line. They haven't got any risk of someone just up and leaving, given that there aren't any outside kind of interferences or whatever. NXT's got that hanging over their head constantly. Like in an instant, you get retribution, and all your storylines are gone for nothing. And if they do come back, they're broken pieces. So it's AEW don't have that issue, and you're seeing it right now with, for example, Kenny Omega. Someone pointed out, it's one of the writers that left WrestleJoy this past week. Can't remember her name, but she pointed out that Kenny Omega had after they finished the tag team with Hangman Page, Kenny Omega was giving an interview, and there was a picture of the Iron Sheik with his belt, with his title and everything, and they were like, and they had a manager next to him. And apparently they're talking about the mirror of that specific title reign with that manager and everything, and the fact that the picture in main focus behind him after he'd won the title was the exact same picture, this time on the bus and everything. It's like, I just retweeted it just with the face of like, it's incredible what you can do, and little tidbits you can put in when you've done this amazing thing with your story called written it. You can just go back, put things in. You're like, you know where it's going, so you can put little hints and foreshadowing. And AEW's doing that. Plus the months of characters, like getting you invested in them with the continuity, that special word continuity that they've got as well. And there's just so much weight and depth that is building on that show now. And 1 year in, I'm really starting to feel it. Like the little pieces they've been putting down are coming together, and characters start to feel like there's a lot of depth to them. Again, Kenny Omega's a fantastic example of that. NXT, I feel like it's just things happening. Cool things that I often do enjoy, and the show's quite more weeks than not, it's really entertaining to watch. They throw a lot of crap at the wall. Like, New Year's Evil, I can say what it is, but we're going to get that and AEW's New Year thing on the same night. So I'm not complaining.
I was saying this on One Nation Radio on Sunday when we were recording, I'm sorry, not Sunday, but Monday, because I actually didn't watch TakeOver Live. I ended up watching it on Monday because I had a lot of stuff going on over the weekend. But I'm watching TakeOver, and I see that they're calling a show on January 6, 2021, New Year's Evil. And I'm like, that's just a microcosm of some of the problems with NXT. It's like, how do you have a show that's going to happen after the eve of the year and call it New Year's Evil, and it's a play on New Year's Eve? That's stupid.
Yeah,
like that's just dumb. That's just dumb.
It's like exactly a week after as well.
Right, especially when like there's a show where if you just did the show on the week before on I think it'd be the 30th, that would be you could call it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're gonna have a show, just do it then. It's weird. It's weird.
And I think for me, like a prime example is the Cameron Grimes stuff in the middle of the card. He was on this show this week. Again, yes, my only opportunity to do the one American accent I can do in the Southern accent. But I'll save it for when we talk about his match. But he's a great little microcosm of throwing gimmicks at the wall, which should be fun and like exciting and wacky, but there's no depth to it, so I don't really care. It's just cool. Again, the other thing I brought up in my column, on the road to War Games, including Halloween Havoc, we essentially had 3 ladder matches within a month, which is crazy. Like, for me, it's just like just running this one. Yes, they're exciting matches, but you're running it over and over, and the repetition in NXT is another thing. And personally, I think it's the specials that are kind of making things feel a bit repetitive, because instead of getting 2, for example, in the North American Championship, you've got Gargano and Priest. Instead of getting 2, like 1 each quarter, we've now had 3, and it's 1 every single month, and we're going to get another one next month as well. So I'm starting to fatigue of stuff just like I do on the main roster, because they're having stories go the same length, but we're seeing the matches repeat a lot more. And for me, that's a major detractor. Like, same with Grimes and Loomis. We had 3 of those matches. It's just like, I was just done. Yeah, Rich with laughing out loud in the chat.
Yeah, Grimes and Loomis is just ass. So it's like I can't even like. I'm okay with Priest versus Gargano having a number of matches. Like, I mean, everybody has a number, like a quote unquote. I mean, it's for the mid card title. They're having a mid card feud. That's fine. Like, I just, like, for example, if you look over at AEW, like especially towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year, like the mid card had 2 different great feuds. Like, one was Hangman versus Pac, and the other one, well, that's more the upper mid card, if you will. And then like the actual really legit mid card was like Sammy Guevara and Darby having multiple matches, and they've had a few Cody and Darby matches, but like that. Ultimately, I get what you're saying, but like the real thing is like it's cool if you don't like do all of these crazy things involved where like there's ghost faces involved, there's all this cheating, like they juiced up something they didn't need all the juice. Like those two just go out there and kill it, and you throw in Leon Ruff so you don't have to beat Damian Priest, so you can get the belt back onto Gargano after you just put it onto him, because like you need them to have another match because like you don't have anything else for them. You're trying to save them for something else, and this just to get past this one, quite frankly, like extraneous takeover. Like that's on them. It's like they're in a weird spot because they still do good matches, but like their matches go short because of their conditions surrounding the fact that they don't have fans like at ringside that are as lively as like, let's say, the AEW crowd, where you have like the locker rooms basically out there cheering for the good guy and the bad guy. And it's just like, so like you don't get the matches that except for like a main event really now, where it used to be in the way it used to be. Like I'm just comparing it to like the old NXT. I'm not even trying to really compare it much to AEW. it just comes to mind. But it's like you look at what NXT used to be, where it's like, all right, like you would come in or you would get people that they want to do something with. They would squash people. Everybody would squash like these jobbers, and then like you would have somebody that's going. The 2 people that were squash people have a match eventually, and one person wins or loses, and the person that loses like gets his heat back their heat back by beating up more jobbers and keeps them in the forefront. Now they don't even do that. Like they come up with all these, they have all these different matches that come with all these convoluted finishes to not actually beat anybody now. And I think a lot of that is because like they don't have the churn they used to of cycling people out. Like Undisputed, Ciampa, Gargano, they've been here for all 4 years now. And like you look at the takeover and it's like Ciampa beat Thatcher. Why? Gargano is a 3-time NXT North American champion for no reason. Okay, whatever. Undisputed just beat McAfee after McAfee has like made himself one of the best promos this year in wrestling, and like they made Pete Dunne into an absolute killer in the process of doing this. Like I don't necessarily think it should have beat McAfee Goon, as Rich affectionately calls him.
As soon as you said that, I was like, that sounds like a Latterism.
Yeah. So it's like I don't really. It's weird. It's weird. I think Rich made the point of saying like it's very similar to where like you look at a WrestleMania from the last like 5 years, you look at me like, Randy Orton, John Cena, and Triple H all won that night. That's interesting. Are they going to push anybody new?
Yeah. That's actually a really, really good point. There's the fatigue of the same people. That's probably why the women stand out. Like, every one of them is new of this generation. There isn't. That old feeling of NXT is there for the women. Like, I've seen quite a few complaints of how they're booked, but that rotation of freshness is there, and it doesn't hurt that it's a really strong division as well. Like, it's my favourite part of NXT every single week, without doubt, consistently great. But yeah, part of it probably is that there's nobody hanging about. And you look at the main roster, it's like, if they hadn't made those call-ups, they would be screwed. Like, they need that depth. I mean, not even using half of it, but like we watch it. It's like the running Lana is like a underdog hero. Like, they need that depth.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is one of the things, right? Like, luckily, the Street Profits are one of the better used NXT call-outs of the last 5 years. But you talked about how they would just, is always a sort of Damocles standing over the head of any NXT, top person, is that they can get caught up at any minute and it screws up whatever storyline they had. Like, so you look at last year, 2019, like, the tag team titles at, I want to say, Phoenix. And so that's Royal Rumble. They defend them against Ricochet in Aleister Black, which I affectionately call Blackochet. And then, like, they're both, all four of those acts all leave up to the main roster. And War Raiders don't have to put anybody over on the way out, even though they were feuding with Street Profits. Street Profits have to go to TakeOver 25 in June and win a ladder match. And then, like, after they win the titles, they get snatched to Raw. Or to SmackDown. I forgot which one they were on. I forgot. But to the main roster. And it's like, NXT's tag team, like, that division has never recovered since that moment where he's like, we just crowned new champions. They're the new ace of the division. Yanked. Oh, you're the new aces. Yank. They've never recovered from that. And to the point where they had to put Riddle in, at the time, Riddle and Dunn together. They had to bring in Grizzled Young Vest. They had to bring in Mandrews and Morgan Webster from NXT UK. Like, they had to do all that stuff to make the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Invitational, or Tag Team Tournament, Tag Team Classic, what's called, work earlier in this year. And it's like, all right, so what happens when the pandemic hits? Like, oh, okay, well,
yeah.
Oh, you guys gotta go back for now until we get you into the country. But yeah, it's just, when you talk about, like, characters feeling three-dimensional, like, yes, Undisputed does feel three-dimensional. Johnny Gargano does feel three-dimensional. Ciampa does feel three-dimensional when he's not cutting these promos where he's, like, basically he's cutting these, like, over 50-plus demos. Yeah. Like, he's almost like he's pandering to the over 50 crowd. Like, he feels three-dimensional because you have all that history and heft with him, but, like, you're still at the time and like, okay, so when is Swerve going to get his time to go nuts and tear this division or this show up? When is someone like Thatcher, who is constantly losing even though they keep giving TV time? It's really weird. Like, now they're giving Atlas wins even though he's already like chased after Phantasma and gotten his ass whooped. It's really weird. Like, the only thing that really makes sense is the women's division, and I'm like, I don't understand how you can book a competent. I never understand this. Like, when people talk about, for example, like AEW and their lack of a women's division, or like the quality of it, or the lack of storytelling, and it's like, I don't understand how these bookers can book other divisions well, and then outside of whatever divisions they're booking well, like, they screw up other ones. Like, I just find that to just be like, how does that happen? Like, you're the same person with the same pen. Just move some of the stuff over that way. I just don't get it. It's weird.
I mean, Latter with a decent suggestion in there of the women's division's got so much depth and it's such a strong division. Why not give them a high percentage of the show? if they're like that well booked, because they're still like maybe one or two segments and that's it. I'll give kudos to the Jai Lee stuff currently.
Yeah, that was great. That was great this week. That was actually great this week.
Yeah, so maybe that's going somewhere, but for all I know, she'll just beat Kacy Catanzaro when she returns, and she's just with an angry face. It's like,
that was one of the best like shot things that that WWE has done this year. That thing where like it's basically like a training montage, similar to like that in an action movie. With Bo and Zaya this week. But yeah, like I wouldn't mind that. I just think that like ultimately they won't do that because you have Damian Priest, you have Karrion Kross coming back, you have Finn Balor, you have another person that's like, even though they haven't been here for 4 years, but like their back is Finn Balor. When I talked about like Undisputed and Gargano and Ciampa, like they have the horses to do this, but like they don't put them on TV and have them interacting with each other, and like they haven't split up Undisputed yet. And like I think that's really the only play they have left as far as like you feel the depth and the weight of these characters, and something happens, and then there's there's going to be a resolution somehow. Like that's the only like real card left to play, because honestly, like, if you're going to have Ciampa and Gargano be players' coaches, you need to have someone eventually beat them. And I don't mean like beat them and then like they're on TakeOver again and they have the same slot 5 times a year. Like some of them need to go off of the card. Like it makes no sense that Kushida was on TakeOver 31 but wasn't on TakeOver this turn. Like it's weird. And then like he shows up to tag team with Leon Ruff on a late scratch because Cross just beat up Damian Priest. Like it's like that. Why was Kushida out here beating people left and right and killing with submissions for like a month, or actually more than a month, more like 2-3 months just to team with Leon Ruff? Like the roster positioning is all over the place with non-established acts, and like the idea is like you're supposed to establish them so that you can roster position them. It's all over the place. It's good wrestling with no rhyme or reason aside from like what they're going for like 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, which is a complaint we've often had about the main roster. Like maybe watching it may give us a cool thing, but it's not got. What's the plan? As in, what's this actually leading to? What are you building to? What's going to happen after this? I've often complained about it being month-to-month booking. Obviously, it's month-to-month booking where that's the grander idea. They've got their end point they're going to for that pay-per-view, but they don't know what's going to happen the next pay-per-view, and often they change it week to week as well. So, and then you get Retribution. That's a tangent I say for every Monday Night Raw. It's just, well, this was the plan of the hacker all along. No, they're making it up. It's just the most blatant week to week making it up. What is this I've ever seen? Using the influence of what was happening at the time, just a thing. They go, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, guys, now look at it.
Right. Like, it was funny at the beginning with like the people on Retribution, like Dijak and Shane Thorne and the like. Even Brandon Williams, what's his wrestling name? He was the announcer that Brock Lesnar beat up Dreadlocks.
I'm trying to remember his Retribution name as well. It's
he's
Slapjack,
T-Bar, right?
And...
No, he's Mace. He's Mace.
Mace, that's it. Yeah.
Well, his name's Mace now. But like when they were all, at the start of this, and like people were like, "Yo, this ain't going nowhere." Like they were all like on Twitter, like trying to dunk on everybody for saying this isn't going anywhere. And then like this week, you see Dijak's tweet, and he's like, he realizes it now. He realizes like, nah, bro, they ain't got nothing for you. Like you're just gonna be in catering like real soon.
My prediction for at least over a month, whenever they debuted, come on, it was. Rich Latter on the delay telling us the name. Thank you, Rich. We got his mate. On Twitter, he's the great. Is it Black Taco or something like that? I can't remember what it is. It's a great something. I can never remember his gimmick name because that's what I know. I know him by his Twitter handle more than anything. I'm not remembering Mace. Jesus Christ. But so my prediction is that they'll be Royal Rumble fodder, and that's when they officially die. As in, if they're not already dead before then, they'll run in and get immediately eliminated. Maybe Ali eliminates Ricochet in their little stuff. In my notes, I wrote Ali with the biggest insult, telling Ricochet, "You belong with us." I was like, "Oh, come on, he's not that bad." Come on, like, Jesus Christ, that's
that Ricochet and Dana Brooke beat them this week, right?
yeah. By the another one of my notes is. Retribution's biggest weapon is also their greatest curse, the roll-up. Not the roll-up. Oh, so, yeah, I think Dana Brooke rolled up Mia Yim, so Ali could yell at her. Yeah. So if you go to the main roster, you could get a mask put on you, and I'm not going to remember your gimmick name. It's it's that bad. But I guess, running it back in a bit, speaking of people who maybe putting the next generation over and moving on, Finn Balor, he's centre of the image I mocked up on Photoshop. Finn Balor is back, and he's doing his whole "The Princess Returned" spiel. Nothing about kitty cats this time. That was weird. The cat is back and stop playing in my litter box. Bitch.
Yeah, that was awful. Yeah. That's exactly what he said too.
Yeah, all that was missing was him calling someone a bitch. As in, it would have ticked every WWE box like a nonsense promo. That was it. But yeah, so the thing I liked about the opening of this show was it's kind of establishing people who could get the elevation, like Pete Dunne, like Damian Priest. It's like, yes, I like that. Yes, a potential elevation. Then you watch the rest of the show and that's not how it plays out at all. But in that moment, I was quite excited. It's like, oh, people get elevated to face Finn Balor. I'm down for that.
But they immediately undercut it because it's like Pete Dunne comes out, goes face to face with Balor, talks about how they're both from overseas and how they both want to make names for themselves here in NXT. So they want to have a match, right? So then in comes O'Reilly. He's like, "Dude, you lost on Sunday on Takeover," and then it's like, and then they didn't mention this, but if you think about it, it's like, well, Dunne beat you in the War Games decision ladder match, advantage ladder match, just the week before that or 2 weeks before that, and then Damian Priest comes down. And he goes face to face and talks about, how much of a moment it would be if Finn Balor and Damian Priest had a match. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys had a match in your house and he beat you, Damian.
Not
clean as a sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, dude, all three of those people are actual, make sense as contenders, right? Because they've positioned them all because you want to see the rematch between him and Finn Balor, O'Reilly and Balor from TakeOver 31 because that match was incredible. Priest is probably the best pure male singles babyface solo in the company or in that brand right now. And Dunne is just Pete Dunne, which is awesome. So it's like, yeah, why not? That makes sense. And he's been established as this psycho killer of the McAfee Goon faction. So that all makes sense. But it's like all these people are flawed contenders. Yeah. All of them.
Yeah. It's like they looked at it just as you did then, but they didn't do that a few weeks ago. Again, it's the not booking it in advance thing, and this is what we praise AEW for so much. When that contender steps up, they've put the places in place. And the phrase I think I've seen before was, "Oh, it's a bit predictable who the contender would be." No, they foreshadowed it, so it feels natural that they would go there. You've watched the progression; it makes sense.
And even when they do stuff like throw Darby in there when he has a record that does not suggest he should be getting a title shot, they at least point out that they'll even have whether it was Pac back in November or December of last year or MJF before he got his title shot with Moxley, point out is yeah, this is dumb. I'm outraged. I've been screwed over. And they at least acknowledge that this doesn't make the best sense in the world. But explain it in a way that's in real sports, in real boxing, real MMA, it's the matchmaker's discretion. It's not necessarily you have to pick number one contender. You can pick through the list of the top 5 people or whatever else, and for whatever reason you decide to pick the number 3rd person because it'll draw a better rating or better buy rate. That makes sense. With NXT, it used to be, if you win 3 matches in a row in NXT television, you're in line or a contender for a title shot, whichever title it may be. Now they don't even give they're so scared to do squash matches that you don't even really get people primed in that way. Like I think the last person was really Cross.
Yeah.
Cross, squash people, and then he beat Dijak, and then that means he was on his way.
So, like in this opening segment, Pete Dunne, thing I put in the notes, fake tan covered Peter Dunne. Good God, he was orange. He came out, and James has already covered it. Then Kyle O'Reilly inserted himself, calling him Peter Pumpkin Eater, and did the. In talking like Pete Dunne, Kyle O'Reilly put on an amazing London accent. I'll give him that. It was a really good London accent. I mean, Pete Dunne's not from London, but it was a really good London accent. I'll take it. On the American, doing an impression of an Englishman spectrum, at least it was an English accent. Not the right location. Yeah, well done you. And then Damian Priest doing his cocky stuff as well. But the big thing was Karrion Kross's return as well. The Scarlett Bordeaux making with a spiky outfit as well. A nightmare to do that in Photoshop because one of the spikes went over where one of my lines is on the Photoshop. That was really irritating. So, this black spike then behind him is complete darkness. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can figure that one out. Anyway, stop moaning about that. So it was an interesting night bringing Karrion Kross back, and he was booked so strongly that it feels like a big deal that he is back. And I just assume he's going to be the contender because he's been booked so strongly, even though he's taken out Damian Priest. Like, Pete Dunne, Kyle O'Reilly, Priest, Kross, maybe you can have Kross wipe through all of them. Just make sure he's 100% dominant going into them. He did it, but to be fair, he don't really need to do that. He could just beat one, and then he's immediately there. But he seems... They're setting up something. That's what it feels like. These four will be relevant in some manner. I assume he's facing Priest first. I'm assuming this also takes Priest out of the match next week. Part of that thing as well. He's no longer in the NA scene. You can completely remove him from it and put him with Karrion Kross. And it's a big deal. And I've named the episode like, is this the end of Finn Balor's is his time up essentially?
Mm-hmm.
Is Kross just going to take back the title and they finally just get back to what they were going to do before the big injury, and they never seem to have a plan? Also got unlucky with Finn Balor also getting injured. So we've just not had an NXT champion on TV for a while now. It's been in limbo ever since Kross got injured, which it does suck. But you can just pick it back up again.
Well, one would say that if you want to do all this goofy stuff with your titles to where you have a title unification match, then the person that wins the title unification match just hands one of the belts over a week later or 2 weeks later, and then you immediately have to move that guy up to the main roster to not do anything with him, or much or less than or next to nothing to do with him. And it's this is, if you were someone to believe in karma or the wrestling gods, one would say that this is you tempted fate, and this is what you sow, or you reap what you sow. I don't necessarily believe in karma, but I'm sure some people do, and I'm sure they're you should have handled this with more care. I think they're just going to get. I just think they're going to start back to Kross. I just do. I think that's they had him just. They had him just manhandle everybody. They gave him a monster push. He started. It basically gave him the Brock Lesnar 2004 push, where he shows up basically right after WrestleMania time, and then he's a champion at SummerSlam. So, I'm not really much of a Kross fan for what I've seen of him. I like his squash matches, but that match with Keith Lee was so underwhelming that I'm okay, so what's he gonna do when he's in there with the non-monsters? If you can have a great just beat him up, throw him around match with another monster, then what are you gonna do? You're gonna do that you're gonna have one of those with a smaller dude? I don't know.
Yeah. I have seen good stuff from him on the indies. I just fully expect to not see that. So I don't know what they're going to do. Gotcha. I do think this is in terms of Scarlett Bordeaux's character, the aura around her in NXT, I feel it feels so much better than anything I'd seen of her before NXT. I'm not a massive fan of the supernatural stuff, like the Fireball to Keith Lee, that era.
That shit was so goofy.
Yeah, like when I go back over the things that happened over the past year, like until this moment, I literally forgot that happened. Just like weird nonsense.
I thought about it when as soon as I saw the buzzard, or I'm sorry, the vulture during takeover, and I was like, oh, he's back. All right. I just like it's interesting. Like they got like I think that Finn Balor, as much as I think his promos are just so like I like this character at first, and then like he's become a parody of what it was. Where it was more like he's more like a bit of a hitman with tactical plans of what his next line of attack. But now it's just like, all right, well now I'm just like I'm the top guy, and the top guy talks in, the guy talks in the lingo terms. I'm like, all right, that's not really interesting anymore. But and like honestly, like he's had the best NXT matches like in this run, like the Gargano match. The Riddle match, the match with Priest, the match with Ciampa, the match with with O'Reilly. Like, I think those are the best slate of takeover matches he's ever had, right? So, it's really weird that I think they're going to just go back to what they were doing, but like I don't really like the idea of either one of them really being the champion, but. That's kind of the way they position it. So like that's where we're headed. I think you can get more use out of Finn Balor fighting like the Pete Dunnes of the world, the Kyle O'Reilly rematch than whatever we're gonna do with Cross. Like, because I don't think ultimately like that's going to be like the standard of what we've gotten out of NXT takeover title matches and main events in the last like 3 years.
Also, little Balor critiques. The way that he phrases what is his current story of, saying, "And New Year's Eve on January 6th, who's going to get that Finn rub?" It's like, come on, mate, you gotta stop using that phrase. Like, come on.
Rub, and talking about popping numbers and stuff, and it's just like, all right, dude, like Hunter, stop, stop.
Yeah. But yeah, so after that we got Pete Dunne. After the break, he was about to give his answer when Killian Dane comes up. Like, oh, continuity monster returns. Killian Dane attacking him, and we got some retaliation for what happened about a week ago. Also, thank you WWE. I can no longer just use the word retribution. So when I'm writing my notes for this, I go, I can't use retribution. I can't. This is the word for what's happening. I can't use it. Thank you. Anyway, the one stream that Latter's in the chat for is the one where Swerve loses. It's Jake Atlas versus Isaiah Swerve Scott, and this is a critique I've got the Cruiserweight division, is that they only have one wrestler really active at a time who's challenging Escobar, and then once that's done, you cycle in a new one, and there's no depth to the division whatsoever. It's just one contender, the champion, that's it. And maybe they're there as in the side. I will say at least with Atlas and Swerve, at least that was, these are two past people who have challenged the man. That's more depth than the division's had in ages, just to have these two people here. But they're putting over Atlas. So it felt like for me when I was watching this match, I was like, this is just the next person putting over Atlas, but at a higher difficulty level. That's kind of what I got at this.
I mean, they do have the part where, they team together to take on Phantasma maybe like a month ago, or sorry, Legado del Fantasma like a month ago, in the aftermath of the Atlas and Drake Maverick thing. Like, that's where you had Ashanti Adonis show up, but they didn't touch on that at all. They wrestled this match, and it was like a 4-minute match. It was good. It was good stuff. It was like only 4 or 5 minutes, and then Atlas won, and then it looked like they were going to turn Swerve heel. I'm just like, how many people do you have to turn heel on this brand? It's like, can we have any baby faces?
Yeah, it's my immediate reaction was, I don't know, something to do in it. He's not really doing anything. So yeah, good for him, I guess. Yeah. Is podcast doing alright?
Like He's not really doing anything. Well, this is the thing also, like Rich does some work with Swerve. And during that six-way match that I was talking about, like Swerve took a dive where like they didn't catch him, and apparently that messed up his hip or something. So like he's been out of action. He's actually been injured, and like, but no one's brought it up. So like that's actually the reason why he's been gone. It has been like it wasn't really creative has nothing for you. It was actually he was rehabbing.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I've put ellipses in my notes for the gag and everything. But yeah, he.
My bad. My bad.
I'll just ignore it now. I'll just move across. But yeah, Jake Atlas is the cruiser of the moment, so Swerve never stood a chance. This week, a much closer contest for the man. He only just won out by reversing. I think it was a Swerve cradle. I think Swerve.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Outlet. It's kind of like out-wrestling the man for a split second, and that cost Swerve, which is better than nonsense finishes we get elsewhere on the card. So I'll give that. It's like no interference or anything. It was like a lapse in judgment for a second, and it cost him. It's like, yeah, I like that. It works. Yeah. Who then? As James was just saying, refused to take Atlas's hand. He's got something to do. We'll see what happens after this. He walks up the ramp with an angry face. So yeah.
Yeah, like you can see him shaking, and it was like, oh god, he's gonna turn heel. Like that's what my first thought was, like, okay, he's gonna turn heel on him like at some opportune time.
Latter with a comment on the Swerve stuff. He said he's had so many convos with Swerve about him being in a baby face. He can't believe they're about to turn him. Just with the laughter afterwards. So yeah, he did the angry pow on the ramp, refusing the handshake and everything. That man's turning. He's gonna be Hobbsing it from AEW, where he's just got the scowl on his face now because he's with Taz. It's the same man, just with the face to it. It's like, yeah, he's gonna Hobbs it. But yeah, so after that we got Ciampa's thing on Grimes. I think we already talked about this a little bit when we brought up Ciampa earlier. He calls Grimes like loud, brash, ignorant, but maybe he's just insecure, disguising himself as confident. We'll find out which it is tonight. That was his little promo for that. Which then led into my, I guess, favourite match of the night, just because it was a fun tag team match. And I've just finished AEW before jumping into NXT, and it was... Sorry, Mitch just made me laugh. Like, how are we going to sell albums with him as a bad guy? Like, no.
So basically he's like Morris Day, like being the antagonist in Purple Rain, where like he says the line about Prince's dad like hurting himself, but then at the end he makes a face where like he's sad at himself for making that statement. It was peer pressure that made him say it, because like at the end of the day, heels can't sell albums.
Yeah.
That's basically where he's coming at. Wow.
Mitch will just have to like babyface. Well, Swerve, pardon the pun. Everything the man does. It's like no.
Yeah.
This is a reason. But yeah, so we got Grizzled Young Veterans versus Imperium versus Everrise. I made a note last week, but a little pop for me is the Grizzled Young Veterans scarves, which are Liverpool scarves, which Liverpool fans will wear to the matches, but with Grizzled Young Veterans written on it instead of Liverpool. It's like, yes, big mark-out moment for me. That was great to say. I love that little detail. For me, like, Grizzled Young Veterans have been a massive injection of life into this division. They're just a team with actually something behind them, and compared to what we've been getting this year, that's a massive boost. Like, you just with an actual properly like tag team in there, it's like, oh, the difference of the feeling. Oh, it's incredible. Because I was just bringing up that with AEW before I laughed at Richard's comment. With AEW, they'd had their strong run of tag team stuff as well. Started off with like Young Bucks kicked off the show, then there was another tag match that followed it as well. They teased the Acclaimed? Is that what they called?
The Acclaim versus SCU, and they also teased that they were going to attack the Young Bucks from behind, and then SCU made the save to stop it from happening.
Yeah, so many like strong tag teams in one segment. Never mind, it was then followed by another tag team match, and then promoted other tag team matches on the show as well. So watching AEW then going into NXT, where I'm just like, oh, a proper tag team injected into this, and Imperium back as well. I was like, oh god, we've had months of Fandango and Tyler Breeze with Drake Maverick and Killian Dane facing Everrise. It's like, this is just like it's night and day. and you got Birch and Lorcan established as heels as well. It's just we've got toys to play with finally, like actual tag teams as well. Because you talked about earlier with NXT never recovering from that tag team kerfuffle, I'll call it, and now I'm like, well, the groundwork is kind of there they've got actual teams again for the first time in quite a while, and the sign of they're good as well is Everrise didn't feel like they didn't belong. For me, it's like, sign that Imperium and Grizzled Veterans are both amazing. That's the sign. If everyone in the match feels over that, and when I've watched a different one, Everrise felt like part of the joke. It's like, no, this match was great for me. I mean, I do really enjoy like tag team chaos stuff, so I am a bit biased. This was perfect on a plate for me to enjoy, and that's what it was, like middle of the card, tag team, really quick match, fun. Got Grizzled and Veterans over as they outsmart Everrise. Had Everrise as like the capitalising team, Imperium the quick efficiency, and Grizzled and Veterans with the awesome tag team fluidity. I don't know if they're face or heel, Grizzled and Veterans, because to me...
Oh, they're heels. Is Zach Gibson a babyface?
That's the thing, is like, is every team in this match a heel?
Yeah, and then the champions are also heels. Like, it's they have to come up with a babyface team. They could bring in Mustache Mountain, of course. They could also always bring in Mandrews and Morgan Webster. We'll see what they come up with. Like, I thought that at times there may have been a path towards doing Thatcher and Ciampa as a tag team. But they're going to feud more, so that's at least not in the cards for now. I really like this match, though. The story of it, like the work wasn't as good as Young Bucks versus Hybrid 2 on Wednesday, but it didn't need to be. But like, I do like the idea or the story of the match to where like Everrise or Geeks, of course, the two-road tag teams are Eichner and Bartel and Grizzly Young Veterans, and those are the two that are actually going at it. And Everrise doesn't actually want to fight, and they're actually doing a real triple threat where there's three people in the ring for the tag match as opposed to just two. And like the Everrise realize they're geeks, don't want to have any interaction. They just want to let the two teams tire themselves out and try to pick the bones. They beat their ass. And then, like, they're just out on the floor while the real tag teams go at it until they recover. And by the time they recover, the two real tag teams have worn on each other, and then you get them trying to make advantage of the stuff. Like, it was a neat story as opposed to the simple, triple threat trope of, all right, someone gets hit with a move, they just roll out the ring for 3 minutes and then roll in to throw another person out the ring and try to steal pins. Like, so I really enjoyed the match. Yeah, like
Evervise's tactic to essentially just play third wheel and let the other two make out. Anytime match, like, I like the idea. It didn't work. They got injected. They were in, and then they became the capitalising team, which again was a nice injection, especially with Grizzly Veterans and Imperium in a way trying to out wrestle each other and outdo them as well. And then you got the team capitalising off of every little mistake or room to breathe or whatever. So yeah, a really fun match to follow. Like, again, the cruiserweight stuff, there's not much to it, really.
Right.
Yeah. But at least this match was really, really fun. We then got a big old War Games recap with talking heads and everything. So, War Games, man. It was a war, man. It was War Games. So that's essentially what they all said. Tony Storm afterwards with a little interview talking about the match with Raquel Gonzalez and Ember Moon later in the night. After War Games, folk keep talking about Ember Moon because she did that awesome eclipse off the top. Storm, but she's like, but I won the match. But the spotlight's on Ember Moon. Like, tonight, that's going to be snatched back. When Io Shirai popped on in, he's like, I haven't got a problem. I just don't like you. And they go into a fight, brawling into the ring, leading all the way to the ring as Tony escaped from the moonsault right into Ember Moon, and a nice mirror of what Tony Storm did to Ember Moon, launching her into the ring steps. A nice little receipt there, and back into the ring to receive the moonsault, which then led into the main event later. And I don't know if we're building to more multi-women stuff, but it's the thing of War Games is finished, let's just split up the teams now and go our own ways. Like, no, that's the consequence of the match. Yeah, I did like how there were consequences for War Games here, and they're trying to. They're both very blatantly putting a lot of stuff behind Raquel Gonzalez, but the rest of the division is still flowing and building quite naturally around her as well. So I can't. It can't be one of those things of they're pushing the big powerful lass. It's like they are also doing stuff for the rest as well. They're not just getting dropped because look at the big shiny toy. So no, the other toys get the time to play. That metaphor got away from me. So the rest of it is, this was a nice little thing to lead to the main event.
Yeah, and like for Raquel to get her, TV title shot whenever, like that's fine. I wonder though. I wonder what's next for Io after that, because they did that fight thing with Tony, but there's still no resolution, or we don't know if we're going to go with that, or if we're going to get a resolution to Tony and Ember. I don't know what one of those are next, but I don't know what is next. But it seems like it's going to happen in the one's following the other. I don't know which is first though.
Yeah, again, it's the benefit of having such depth to a division. So many pieces could be the one up next. So yeah, again, kudos, and it leads to the main event later. Now it's time for Cameron Grimes versus Tommaso Ciampa. Told you to save the accent. The two tussling as Thatcher mirrors Ciampa's presence with a seat on the ramp. So the story immediately is out about the guy on the outside. Right, okay, cool. Grimes with an actual tactic, my god, in targeting the neck, worked on the night at War Games. But Ciampa will strike you down with a beautiful vengeance. Cameron Grimes didn't fare too well as the match gradually moved into a run of strikes, but had an in after Thatcher's student, whatever his name is, decided to run in and attempt an interference again on his behalf. I think I got his name written down later. Tyler Rust, that was it. Ran in.
Yes, that's his name.
And
yeah.
He had an in, Cameron Grimes, but didn't work. Ciampa just slid out the ring and immediately up onto the apron to hit the Widow's Bell draped DDT to win the match. And Tommaso and Timothy not breaking eye contact. That makes him sound nowhere near as serious. Timothy Thatcher. Yeah, Tommaso and Timothy didn't break eye contact. Thatcher then beat the Southern man up like, poor lad, he can't have any friends. Everyone just beats him up. Even the baddies beat him up. So continuing the build for Thatcher, Ciampa. Not entirely sure why. I wasn't again with me, so I didn't watch War Games live either, so I don't know if that's quite a compelling thing. And I skipped a lot of the middle of the card. It just didn't entice me. Wasn't really caring for it. And Ciampa versus Thatcher was another one where I just kind of skimmed through it rather than properly watching it. Like after War Games, I just wasn't feeling a match like that. I think I even skimmed through them afterwards all the way to the North American Championship. I just wasn't feeling it. So this continuing, fine, I guess. It's continuity. There is that for NXT again. They're not just dropping it. Thatcher what he's doing fits his character. It's not a raw thing of let's do a plot point beat. Like no, it fits him. Are you a bit higher on it or?
I'm a bit higher on it because I like Thatcher's matches. This match was very good from Takeover. I wish that Thatcher had won, but whatever. But potentially he could get his win back. You know how that goes when it comes to WWE talk. But but yeah, I did enjoy their matches, or their match, and I would want to see it again. So it's fine with me. I mean, I don't know what to make of Cameron Grimes. I guess from a roster positioning standpoint, he's just I thought that he could be an actual mid-carder and someone that could be serious. But given how they've treated him with Loomis from Priest to Loomis to this, he's just a geek. He's a geek that can squash jobbers, but he's like the number 4 heel. And I mean, whatever. Someone has to be number 4 heel, but I really like his matches. He's a really good worker.
It's with Cameron Grimes, I feel like the best place I saw him, PWG, I want to say, because he always had a good run in the bowler. And
Okay.
it was when he was doing his the best way to get heat on the indie scene was to call himself like Impact Wrestling Superstar Trevor Lee. It's just like such a, and it got heat every single time. It worked to a point where Excalibur was just like, we can actually get him into the final with this. I think you might have even made the final. He didn't win, but it's just the fact of they hated him so much, and he just soaked it in. It's just like, I'm a superstar. It's just like that. For me, that was like the best. Where he's doing the same moves and things, but he didn't feel like a joke, and it was kind of that same. Is it faux confidence or not? That was still there, but he didn't feel like a comedy wrestler. And in NXT, kind of that's a WWE thing to kind of zone in on characteristics a bit stronger. And quite often you fall into like holes like this for Cameron Grimes, where it's the type of thing where I'm just looking at him and just thinking it's going to be so much worse on the main roster. Like he will just be a comedy act. There's no way.
Yeah. He's gonna be next Heath Slater on the main roster.
Yeah, like it will be record time jobber like type of levels of things. Which it's one of the things. It's just written on the wall. It feels so blatantly the next thing to happen, even though he's a great wrestler and he can go. Anyway, so moving on with the show. Sorry. Do you want to make some points?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like, and there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with being a R-Truth, a Heath Slater comedy guy. Like, you don't have to bump. You don't have to take many bumps. I don't know how many matches he's had and how long his career's been, but like, you get to get paid, you get to travel the world or whatever else. Like, there's necessarily no problem with it if that's what you want out of this, but. I don't know, given how good he is. Like he's damn good. So like I don't know. I don't think that's all he wants. Like I think he's good enough to go out there on Takeover with a Gargano or a Swerve or a Kushida or whoever else and kill it. So I mean, it depends on what he wants. We'll see. We'll see how much longer because he's only been around for like a year or a year and a half. So we'll see.
Yeah, so after this, we got Raquel Gonzalez just kind of re-emphasising again that Ember's going to regret coming back to NXT. I'm big, I've got muscles. Off she goes. But again, pretty much the essence.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, somebody worded it as Raquel Gonzalez is just when she's out there, she just demands your attention, and that's something which for WWE, that's just like that is such a star-making thing.
Yeah. I'm a real big Raquel Gonzalez fan. Like over the last month or 5 weeks or whatever else, like she should she's been great. The last recently, of late, she's been great.
Yeah. What I'm going to say one of the most improved. I don't know if it's just because she's finally got the opportunity to show it as well. So it's a mix of the two, like the right booking, the right opponents, and stepping up to the plate as well. So yeah, major thumbs up. And we'll get to talk a bit more about it later as well as they main evented.
Yes.
Jai Lee in training, we've already talked about this earlier. You're punching the wooden doll thing. I can't remember what it's called.
Right. I can't remember for life of me either, but I've just seen it in a bunch of action movies.
Yeah, I've definitely watched Bruce Lee punch one. So they exist in the martial art movies. Bo was also taking kendo shots again and again over his bleeding back, and also some awesome slow-mo punches to the face as the blood spurted out. That looked fantastic as well. Like for me, this was, as soon as I saw, like last week, I was thinking this is like Lucha Underground level of fantastic outside of the area kind of stuff. This week, I felt like it was maybe even above that, because every shot seemed to have such great purpose and was such high production. Because I noticed it with the Shotzi Blackheart stuff. Like the Shotzi Blackheart promos for War Games, like the production of these is like really high. Like they're generally like really, really good. And quite often NXT, I think this was the point I was making last week, NXT quite often get the latest tech or the newest thing and they test it out on NXT first. Like case in point would be the banners, the electric boards around the ring. Like just a little small case in point.
Right.
Yeah, NXT got those first before they went to the main roster. And as soon as I saw those, like, if this quality transfers to the main roster, like this will great. I mean, obviously, you'd have to plan something in advance to be able to film it, but which is a major flaw currently. But the fact that they could make stuff of this quality that can get me excited. It's like, imagine cause one of the best things about Raw or SmackDown, whatever, is like the post-production stuff when they make those video packages and everything. They're really good. as in they're making like shit out of crap, and they knock it out of the park month after month, and with this quality of production on top of that, that'd be great to see. But this video package here for like the third week in a row, I'm just in. I'm really intrigued. Like, give me random old Asian man teaching the mysterious ways of something. Just yes, I'm in. Yeah.
Okay, I was interested in last week's when they were basically getting waterboarded. I thought, like, I wonder where this is going. I still think this is Xia Li and Boa, and like, please don't be like, because you see Legado del Fantasma, you see the obvious like cartel parallels. It's like, please don't just like put minorities into like basically the gritty, dark backstreet like ethnic mafioso type things that like depending on their ethnicity. Please don't make this into some triad thing. I don't. As we're getting further along, I'm seeing less of that. So like I guess my antenna is going down, and like quite frankly, like this week was it looked so cool that I was like, all right, like I don't know where this is headed. But it looks cool, so I'm willing to like drop my skepticism for now.
So that was my exact worry whenever they did it like 2-3 weeks ago. I think you've almost said word for word my exact worries. Where I was just like, I really don't want this to go like either like a triad route. I think I use the word Yakuza because I'm accidentally a bit racist against Asians, but they do. They do.
That's Japan.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, I think I even said it on the stream because I didn't have it in my notes. I said Yakuza and I was like, wait, no, that's the wrong country. Oops.
You should have heard Rich like 2 weeks ago when I was telling him all this stuff, and he's like, it's going to be Mako Satomura. I was like, Mako Satomura is not Chinese, man. I was like, I don't know what this is, but if it's Mako Satomura, they need to stop immediately. Immediately. Because it makes no sense.
She wrestles in red. China's colours red. Is that close enough? No. But yeah, these video packages have been great. So yeah, VTR to bring over a Japanese term. Just go for it. We've all got the wrong country. Let's hammer home. After that, a Merry Gargano celebration. I put Merry because it's December. Johnny all happy as the North American champion once again because it's 3 times. Again, case in point, we've already talked about that earlier. And Austin Theory, now officially part of the family. I'm not going to lie, at War Games, where he went, it was me, Austin. That made me laugh. The fact to say his name. I found that so funny. And they played him up a bit of an idiot in this bit here. I don't know if they've shifted his character to a bit away from cocky to, you're just not very smart, are you, Austin? Kind of doing that little bit of a shift. But the Garganos walked out of War Games entirely victorious. Johnny made a trophy of sorts for Candice with I wanted to say it was like a troll toy thing. I don't know what that was on the top of it. Just dressed up as...
It was close to a troll, yeah.
Eventually, they joked about for ages with Austin's a bit of an idiot thing. Indy was there to save Austin from purely taking the stuff off the rails. Eventually, they got to the point. Johnny and Austin have got a tag team match next week against Priest and Ruff, but oh no, what's going to happen? What happens here with Damian Priest? Mention the name, out they come. I guess is that I was going to say is that continuity, but they're pointing out something which they also do. So it's another one. Damian Priest starts chatting crap at the team when Karrion Kross full on returns to the show and takes him out, beats the man up all over the place. Throwing him into every corner of the Titantron, every pokey out a bit or into it, Damian Priest went. Eventually, completely taken out by Kross. And yeah, that leads to suddenly, what's Ruff going to do? Because he hasn't got a partner. We got that answer a little bit later. I'll be honest, for this, I was like, a lot of the stuff is happening in this promo, but I've written like 4 lines in my notes. Like, I've got so little. It's like, a lot of it was just kind of like throwaway stuff. I guess it's a new person in the faction, character establishing. It like it kind of feels a bit like a faction now. So they can actually all stand in the ring, have their little promo. Everyone gets their piece, gets their time. I was fine with it. Again, I think I've often said with NXT, I don't really get overcritical a lot because there's just a lot of building blocks, and I can't really like the VTRs for Jai Lee and stuff. Like I can't be that critical because I don't know where it's going. It's just a building block. This was a full-on character building block. I don't know where. I don't have a clue at all where it's going afterwards. Maybe we got an answer in Kushida. But as pointed out earlier, Kushida seemed to get a quite decent run and then just vanished off the face of the earth. So who knows? It's the best thing to that. What do you make of the Gargano family?
I like the idea of establishing a Gargano family faction. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like, I'm not cool with Austin Theory being on TV, but whatever, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, like, I think that Gargano is the level of promo to be able to carry such a thing, and I think that Candice during this whole War Games run has improved so much on the mic that like those two can do this. Like, I feel like when they first both turned heel at the beginning, or, in the spring, like, they had no idea. They just turned them heel without really having any idea what to do with them, and they decided to do those family dinner things, and, they would do the weird, voiceover thing where they would fade to black, and the weird voices, and the camera effect or whatever else. Like, it feels like they've been chipping away at this, and now they're finally onto what their fully formed, thought out idea. And along the way, it's gotten better and better and better. It sucks that Candice, broke her arm. But it looks like she'll be back sooner than later, given that she's not in a hard cast. She's in a, one of those soft deals. So, hopefully it's not as bad as it could have been. But yeah, I think I like the idea of them being a faction, and this part of the quote unquote development part of what NXT was and is kind of sort of not really anymore. Whereas like, all right, you have basically two player coaches, put them with two other people that you see something in, and put them together and make something happen. Like Austin Theory is they spent most of the beginning of the year, put him in the ring with, like Damian Priest and Ciampa and Adam Cole and Gargano and a few other people, Swerve, for example. Like, they clearly want something out of him, and they clearly put him in the ring with a bunch of young dudes. And the matches were good when he was, in there with the veterans. So, like, you put him in there in tags with Gargano or whatever else, and he becomes a heater for him. Like, sure, whatever. That's a good role to be in. Like, they can have good matches together and good, stuff interacting with each other. Like, we'll see what they do with he's just a bumbling idiot, but that part. But they're going to have a couple promos in the near future where like it actually works. I don't think it really worked this time, but we'll see.
The one point I'll make of it is with it's a point I was making of when Lana came out on Raw a couple of weeks ago, and suddenly she's fawning over people like Bayley in NXT. He's like, oh my god, I can't believe it's Asuka. I can't believe it. I'm teaming with Asuka. It's amazing. I might get a championship match. That's incredible. And I was like, none of these characteristics existed last week. They just appeared out of thin air. Like, none of this has been established as a thing you would do.
So Lana's like Bayley NXT now. Like, beginning of Bayley in NXT now?
She was for a week. Like, for what? Like, the week after Survivor Series, she was like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is incredible. And then it's kind of like, that character has been there a bit, but it's kind of like, it's like that character's gotten a bit used to the situation, is kind of how they've done it afterwards. But,
so are you supposed to get the time when like she was a number one contender and had multiple title matches against Naomi in 2017?
That didn't happen.
Forget that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
My main worry is I've literally just seen that on the main roster. Like, somebody turns up, suddenly they've got a brand new characteristic that never existed before, was never kind of teased or anything. Just 1 week, suddenly they're a different human. So it's like they had an idea to get them over, but let's do that this week then. This type of thing. This is a bit of a worry. So with Austin Theory, will this exist next week? Will it be built upon at all? And at least he's taken time out in NXT, which is developmental. So there's always that. Is it development? Let's not get into that rabbit hole. There is that issue of it could just be a random trait that never appears again because that's a main roster issue. But in NXT, we don't normally see that, and if we do, it's kind of just like, well, they're testing stuff out, aren't they? It's NXT. They test stuff out. That's fine. It's NXT. I'm not going to throw my toy out the pram. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. Tyler Rust, the student who attacked Ciampa earlier in the show, he gets a promo for some reason. I'm kind of putting that over when Malcolm Bivens. I was like, oh, I forgot he's there. If I didn't follow him on Twitter, I would just forget he's there. So Malcolm Bivens steps in and attempts to hide the man and bring him in because he had the two large Indian lads.
I think their name was Indu Sheer, right?
And then they just didn't. It just didn't work. The actor just didn't click, and it's like, oh, cool. Because when he got signed, I was like, he could be a fantastic manager. And then they had Robert Stone do a jokey little segment. I was like, oh, I mean, he would have been great at this. But Robert Stone wasn't awful at it. The booking for it for me kind of broke that for me. I thought he was fine with Green, but yeah. And then Bivens
have we seen Robert Stone since Mercedes Martinez lost that cage match?
No, like her getting called up to Retribution, like that was suddenly like every idea they might have had is like, we've got nothing for you now. It's just, and now she's off the face.
She's not even on the roster.
That said,
like the organization.
Mercedes Martinez dodged a bullet, as in getting out of that gimmick. Yeah, which is not being anywhere is still better than being in Retribution. Like no question. Yeah. So like, I was calling for her to be the instead of Io Shirai, I was like, yeah, Mercedes Martinez. I've heard just come back to NXT. You've got a history of Rhea Ripley. Just why not have them be in the same team of enemies, my enemies, my friends type of situation? I'd be fine with that. But I mean, I'm not going to complain about Io. We got that trash can thing where Io was like the happiest woman in the world, just the beaming before she put that trash can on.
And for future meme purposes, like I think she probably has like a year left on her deal. So like, imagine pretty soon she'll get called up, and like we can always go back to that meme when they screw her up of her putting a trash can over her head.
She even tweeted it out, like a gif of it, with just I think she just put, I'm trash. Then just the thing.
What?
So yeah, so it's like, be careful, that'll come back. That can come back and bite you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Peter Dunne versus Killian Dane. NXT UK was all over this show, so just a little notice. Main event as well. Rhea Ripley, Tony Storm. So yeah, all over the show. A nice brawly telematch. Dane taking out his anger on his return following the attack. Rich, now on the official account of Rich Laughter TV, is Robert Stone alive? We don't know. We do not know. So Pete Dunne, the excellent wrestler, fighting back as Dane's taking out his anger. The strength of the Northern Irishman really on display once again, just power bombing out of submissions like it's nothing, and a big old fisherman buster off the top rope as well. Maybe even properly having the man's number in the latter stages, just slamming him down for something off the top rope, if not for the interferences. So this has been like a little thing on NXT. I will say this week there were not as many as there's been in past weeks, but the last two matches both had it just chock-a-block full of it. Birch and Lorcan running in, but were met by the also returning Drake Maverick, fending them off with a chair, but posing on the ramp with his thumbs up in a job well done way too early. In terms of the comedy act between, I was like, are they just going to take Drake as serious this week? And it's like, no, he can't be serious. No. He was like, I've done it, Dillian. I've done it. And then he just gets whacked over the back with a chair. It's like, oh, one chair shot's not enough. Surely you know that. So Dane then has to go and help out. And he does help out. He does beat them up. But that leads to Dunn back in the ring, just clobbering him and hitting him with the bitter end for the win. So Drake tried. And after the match, you got Drake checking on Killian. It's like, "Oh, you were right, mate." And Kane just piss off. Like, no, you were ineffective.
Shoved him.
Yeah. But yeah, I like them. I like that dynamic when weirdly their tag team matches. I think I said before that would be so over on the UK independent scene, just that kind of childish act, because we're essentially just drunk children. So they'll get over so much. But with how it is in NXT, for some reason I prefer the dynamic of Dane, the super serious guy in the ring, and then you get a little dose of Drake rather than the match being full of it. You get kind of like a little flavour. And I felt like that kind of worked, as in Dane never shifts in full on into comedy, apart from at the end where he just got a laugh out of me, just pushing him away. I thought it was quite good. But yeah, Dunn continues to get booked relatively strong after the Pat McAfee stuff, which is good to see.
Yeah. I liked this match. It was a good match. It wasn't anything to like write home about, but it was a good match, and I do like the idea of the babyface that got destroyed, his mouth got broken, comes back in like a month and like he whoops his dude's ass for the majority of the match, and then Dunn at the end gets a little bit of help and then puts him away and he gets out of there. I liked it. I don't want to see a rematch. I think that it's just in there and they move on to doing like Maverick and Killian versus the tag champs Oni and Lorcan, whenever Oni's eye or whatever else is on point to be able to do that. Like, I think they should transfer that to that and keep Pete Dunne away from it, because it's just like, look, you don't get a chance to get your comeuppance on Pete Dunne. You're good. Go that way.
Actually, yeah, I think I totally agree, actually. Have Pete Dunne interact with the three other guys who walked out with Finn Balor, and then you have the other two go for the tag titles. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Especially as, in that meanwhile, you're currently building up the underneath of that division as well, so you'll have some pretty strong contenders by the time you're done with that. Yeah, it's a win-win all around. It's decent stuff. Also, Pat and his merry men, as I donned them, get to continue their... Oh, I've run out. No, Robin Hood. No, nothing works. I was like, continue the Robin Hood thing. Oh no, none of these work with this situation. They continue to fire their arrows. There you go, at an efficient rate. There you go. Archery. That's close enough. Leon Ruff backstage. I'm just dropping it. Leon Ruff was backstage and with his little injury thing when Gargano cockily jaunts on in. After Priest is taken out by Cross, he's like, "Oh, what are you going to do? Take us on 2-on-1? Oh, see you next week, chap." And off he toddles. I like that from Johnny. That's quite funny. But after he was done skipping away, Kushida offered to step in, and my only pro with this is if this is Kushida being smart and immediately like, I've got a way in to get the North American Championship match here, I'm going to use Ruff to my advantage. For me, that's the only route I can definitely think of off the top of my head, where I'll be fine with this, other than just looking at it as like, well, we need to put someone in. All right, I guess Kushida's there, not doing anything. Let's put him in. For me, that's my worst case scenario. But I wouldn't mind it if it plays out as Kushida is another person just using Ruff to his advantage because he wants to get the championship again. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I can see that too, and I would be okay with they have that tag match. They Kushida's destroying Theory or Gargano, and then they find a way to isolate Ruff. They put Ruff on the shelf, and Kushida then chases after the the North American title and Gargano like that, or Gargano, whatever you want to call him. Like, yeah, that'd be cool. I just remember the cruiserweight interim tournament that they did beginning of the year, where like Kushida, they had that three-way tie in the A block with Kushida and Atlas and Maverick, and then like Kushida just bowed out to Maverick because it was Maverick's job was on the line, and then ultimately at the end you found out all this was a ruse because like it was the masked men were Delgado's people, or not Delgado, I'm sorry, Santos' people. I said Delgado, like, where did that name come?
Just like it's a thing. Yeah.
Right, like so like instead of it being Kushida who should have naturally came in and stepped in to help Maverick, they made it Swerve. But now when it's something that has absolutely nothing to do with him, Kushida then steps in.
Yeah.
It's like so like it's Kushida like it's so like when Kushida like helped out Maverick, went away, and then like he's about to help out like Leo Ruff. Like, is he just like granting Maverick? Like, is he just grant like one wish and then fucks off? Like, is that his thing?
But he hasn't got a thing, has he? I guess he's just there doing things.
Just, I mean, he was. They built him up on a win streak, and he was off TV because they were building towards War Games. But like, he's still someone they gave a bunch of wins to. So like, if that's how they want to port him into a Gargano thing, like, cool, fine with me. I would love to see Gargano versus Kushida, like on some type of title match where there's no nonsense on the takeover. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, just Kushida with a plan, just something to do, as in a consistent thing to do rather than popping up every now and then. Right. Like, I'd be cool
same
with that.
here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of seeing him like in some random 7-minute match where he's awesome for 7 minutes and then like he just moves on to the next thing after beating somebody.
Yeah, like for me, the comparison might be Keith Lee a bit, where he was in NXT for what felt like a while doing nothing, and it was quite a while till he actually finally got. Remember at the time there was quite a few people saying, you've got Keith Lee in your roster and you're not using him. It was a weird period. But then, once they did start using him, he very quickly just became a megastar in NXT. But with Kushida, I feel like that's the comparison I'm making, where they've had him on their roster, they've featured him every now and then, but it's getting to a point of, you're already going to do something with him. Like, surely, like, the talent of that man, surely you're going to do something.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's a talent which I don't see much of a future for on the main roster. It's just the way that they book it, everything. So, like, I mean, you could have a good NXT career for this next year or so, but it's absolutely nothing to do with his talent. He's an amazing wrestler. That does not matter on the main roster. Like, surely he's in trouble just because he's a
I mean, think of how charismatic Akira Tozawa is, and they have that man in a ninja suit running around, like after the 24/7 title.
Like, case in point,
he's one of the best wrestlers in the world.
He's just. Just lost in a comedy gimmick, and my other thing is the 24/7 title not being on Raw. Those shows have flowed so much better without these random short bits in there.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I mean, if he's going to be in those comedy segments, when I'm watching this show and I'm reviewing it, I give it a thumbs up when it's not on it. So it's a bit of a shame for him. But finally, we make it to the main event. And we've done so before we reach in 2 hours, so for us that's an achievement. Well done. That means we've not tangented too much. It's kept it relatively in line. And the main event was Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon, as Raquel Gonzalez pretty much just naturally becomes number one contender over the course of these next few weeks. Moon trying to quicken the pace, Gonzalez just slamming that back down, just right down on her face. So yes, I love that. The rise of Big Mama Cool continues. The first half of the match entirely about her stamping out Ember's fire. The former NXT Women's Champion eventually kicking her way in and not changing tactic and immediately following that offense with a quick dive, just continuing to try and quicken that pace after she got in. But after returning from the ad break, we were in the exact same situation again. Moon getting worn down and then having to try and kick and reverse her way back in. In the latter half, finally able to swing momentum of moves to bring the powerhouse down. And on the outside, Gonzalez found herself on the announce desk after a dive. Ember climbed a support structure, and I saw that. I was like, were they there all along, or are they just here for this episode? The structures for War Games.
They left them there, and then I was like, why did they leave them there? And then she started climbing. I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. Well, that's where TNA used to do that all the time as well. I was like, why are those oh yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's why
I think environmental offense as Rich would call it.
But yeah, so they did all that after the break, and Moon went to climb that and instead got pulled right off and sent headfirst into a steel post. So she didn't get to dive off it. It's not War Games, you've done your high spots. If anything, kicking out after that gave Moon a run of fire, even to the point of attempting the Eclipse. However, she was instead impressively caught and just swung about. The first attempt of a Gonzalez single arm powerbomb countered, but there was no messing about with the second one. Raquel Gonzalez with her second big win of the week. I'd be surprised if we aren't looking at the next contender for Shivai's title. But we don't go off air with just one Hoss in the ring. No. We need two Hosses. This is NXT. So first off, Toni Storm arrives. She's all angry. She's got the angry face. She's going to attack Ember Moon in the ring. But Rhea Ripley stops that and saves the lass from getting revenge exacted upon her. And then the show goes off the air with a big old stare down between NXT's two Hosses, Big Mama Cool and Rhea Ripley, who doesn't have a nickname. Those two are staring at each other as we go off air. It's like, yes, we're gonna get the big Shingo versus other big muscly person. I don't want to say Ishii, I want to say somebody else. But yes, big powerhouses clashing. Yes, I think I had you on the last time those two faced, and we were just gushing over that match.
I loved it. Like I was on cloud nine that particular week with the Wednesday shows, because you had that great match, and then on the AEW side you had Hangman versus Wardlow, and like I need to remember whatever that date was, because that was like sometime in late October, early November. But like that is like the date where like I was officially sold. I am buying as much stock as I can of these two for different reasons, but I enjoy Wardlow and Raquel Gonzalez for different but quite sometimes similar reasons of just being hosses. And like I would like to see a match between those two one day. Like just two big mean athletes that scowl and throw people around.
Like the descriptions I give it for like for Tomohiro Ishii matches, like meat slapping meat. the big E.
Yes,
yeah.
It would be a Big E classic.
Yeah. Yes. The NXT's two Hossers clashing again. Yeah, meat bumping meat, and it's just it was fantastic last time. And really set the bar.
Yes.
And again, because there's the rumours of Rhea Ripley being main roster bound. To be fair, they're probably there because she's finished her runners with the NXT Championship stuff, and she's had the stuff with Charlotte. And I will say, in terms of like the rumours of the women's stuff, Charlotte was apparently really unhappy with how both Raw and NXT turned out for her in that period, and is demanding something like properly in place for her return this time, as in, no, like I want a planned story this time, like something with an actual like plan for it. Because I think with the NXT Championship run, for me that just screams that there was no plan for that. Like there's no plan to eventually get anybody over. It's kind of dithered out. Like that kind of thing, you need something in place of, well, we're doing this because then we're going to get this person over by doing it. It just never. It was very clear that there was no plan for what Charlotte was going to do once she was NXT champion, and apparently that's because it was the strings being pulled on both Raw and NXT that things were changing so constantly. That's again why it felt like week to week booking with it, because it makes sense, or even like 2 times a week booking, which is like doubly worse. Somehow end up in that situation, but if that means they're paying a bit more attention to the women's division, that's probably not a bad time for Rhea Ripley to also get in. Because that means they're taking a bit of care of the women's division at that specific moment. So, obviously she didn't have a choice on this. So, who knows what's going to happen. Like personally, this NXT women's division, the state it's in now, I'd be happy to keep everybody for as long as possible before then shooting them off.
Yeah. I would say, like, the Charlotte thing is always just a conundrum, because she's obviously someone that was pushed to a certain spot and has been pushed to maintain to be at a certain spot, regardless of the quality of whatever she's doing at the time or whatever else. Like, I think you look at like her pay-per-view career, and like she's almost out. Like, it's very rare that like she's not in a title match. Like either she's involved with the title or nothing else. And I see why they did what they did. Is like, well, we really have nothing for you for WrestleMania, so like let's just make the NXT champion face you. Well, of course she's going over. It's like, you know, you talk when like, of course they're not going to put Rhea Ripley over Charlotte Flair, even though they probably should have. But like for a person that they gave the world to the second she came into Full Sail with, you know, her Rhea's run to the title back in December, and then like all of it came crashing down and it hurt inside. Like immediately after, it was like, yo, like you gave this woman the world. Everyone loved the fact that she did this, and then like you almost like you set her up for failure, like the first half of 2020, and then like, you know, we finally got the EO match, singles match, and then like that was on TV instead of at a takeover, and you know whatever. But it's like, was that worth it? Like, you know, like the only, and then you know you heard the Triple H stuff where it's like, well, this is all leading towards something, and it's like, well, what could possibly pay off what happened to Rhea aside from her winning the Rumble and then beating Charlotte at next year's WrestleMania?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you can almost predict to a T. That's not going to happen. Like it's just
right
a thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we want to be proven wrong that there was a plan. That well, even if there wasn't a plan, you've at least retconned it afterwards to make it to fix it, like you've done.
Right.
I think I said before that WWE are sometimes they'll make themselves a horrible mess, but then they'll fix it by the end of it, or fall into something. Like case in point, who attacked Roman Reigns? Suddenly, they somehow end up with Eric Rowan as actually not bad, like top heel, which is clearly not the plan. But again, one of my favourite produced things by WWE because it's badly storyboarded, it's badly thought out, it's making it up week to week. It's just it's amazing.
How do you think you're going to get to a whodunit for Roman Reigns' murder attempt 3 weeks out for SummerSlam and having it being Daniel Bryan and it makes sense? And then ultimately they were left off the card. I cannot believe they left Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan off of a SummerSlam card.
Because I remember at the time the feeling was that the story's I've used the phrase not cooked, like it's not ready. The dinner's not ready. It would have tasted horrible, but I mean, if Roman Reigns and Bryan, it would have been a decent match. Just wouldn't have had any character stakes in it or story stakes whatsoever because way too early in a clearly made up 3 weeks ago feud. It's just it was again one of my favourite shot WWE things because just for the production of that one attack on him, the storyboarding of it, just because it's so jarring, it's so bad. It's like university student in their first year levels of like you're just waiting there to be a tripod in shot, just something because it's just so bad. And I say that from experience of doing it in first year. Like it was just so bad. Hence why it's one of my favourite things. It makes me laugh every time I watch it. It's amazing. Just the final point. It's for me the bit that sells it. It's the Roman look out, and then it's the for some reason shot. It's just Oh, it's amazing.
And then the picture where he's underneath like the jungle gym, and he's like on the ground. He's like still covered. I was like, it was a lot of meme worthy stuff. Like I can't believe that. In 2018, they get Daniel Bryan back, and then in 2019, they get Roman like returning from beating blood cancer, and they screw both of these two people up. It's like, how Sway?
Then I know we're off topic, but Roman then went from that to his never-ending feud with Baron Corbin, and it's like, oh no wonder, like COVID was a reset saver for that man, as in that was his momentum going into WrestleMania. Like Jesus Christ. Anyway, we've drifted off topic because we have actually finished covering NXT.
Real quick.
Oh yeah.
Amp. What was Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin feuding? What were they feuding about?
Dog food. That was the dog food one.
They were feuding about who was the actual locker room leader.
Yes, that was it.
And the locker room leader thing came out of the Saudi Arabia playing stuck on the tarmac thing when apparently Seth cut a speech, and it may have been raw, maybe people tuning out, he may have not said nothing else, but because Dave Meltzer may or may not have reported something wrong. Then it turned into 2 storylines where Seth turns heel, where it becomes the Raw guy, which leads to the Messiah thing. And then on SmackDown, Roman Reigns and King Corbin are feuding over who's the locker room leader in a promotion that is built upon game theory and who is the toughest tough guy in alpha male, where people turn on each other all the time. So who could possibly care about who's the locker room leader? All these people should hate each other's guts because they're trying to reach the top in Vince McMahon's wrestling circus. It was just like, okay, bro. Okay, bro.
That was in an era where I was writing. I had a weekly column covering like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AEW, so I was watching everything. And whenever we got to SmackDown, I remember some columns I was just like, do I have to? I didn't include SmackDown. I was like, I've not watched it. To come up to it. That was a bad era for SmackDown. Apparently it's really good now. I just don't have the time to watch it. So it's, yeah, yeah.
I'm not going back to SmackDown. Like I've heard good things I've heard good things. But yes, it broke me. It broke my back, spinal, in the words of Mike Tyson. Yes, just done. Can't do it.
Yeah.
I can watch pay-per-views and I can, watch, something that if I hear something good or something crazy, like I'll get it sent to me, but can't do it no more. It really did. Like I can't in a way that, like, after Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles, where I just couldn't watch Laker games because, like, he wasn't the same Kobe Bryant. Like, I cannot watch, like, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Ricochet, Keith Lee. I can't watch these people that, like, I love go through out here and get sent out there to die. I just can't. It was bad material. I just can't. I can't. It hurt. It's one is insulting my intelligence, and two is like I've seen these people do so much better, and this is not what they want to do. Obviously, they're doing their job, and I'm glad they're cashing these checks or whatever else. But this is so substandard to the things you've seen them do before. They wouldn't do this unless there wasn't one guy in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's depressing at times, but it's like
very.
Yeah. Well, with Raw, as outside of the Retribution stuff, for both SmackDown and Raw, they're nailing their main events. It's just underneath where it's just flair. And AEW for me is showing case in point of why you should care about the entire card, like every single character on there. Like, if you pay attention to that, yeah.
Mostly, yeah.
But in terms of like NXT, in terms of like phasing two, the one thing in my column where I was like running down on NXT, just trying to essentially figure out, well, why do I feel like there isn't much weight to the show anymore? And one of the pros was the women, and they're just
right.
Yeah, it's a great consistency to see with the women, and the fact that they're main eventing a lot more regularly now is great to see. Like, even Richard's suggestion of just give them even more a higher percentage of the show, because they are the one consistent for me. Like, the rest of the show is up and down, I think I'd say. I don't know. I feel like they're in the middle of re-injecting some life after like the recent eras and things. It's just
maybe because it feels like they're always like, if Triple H. The reason why I won't say that Triple H is ever a bad booker is because obviously the past 5 years, but like even now, he gets himself into these situations, but he keeps resetting the table in these ways that are actually like interesting. If they weren't just for a quick 3-week fix, 4-week fix, in the way that it was like when like someone like a Russo was resetting the table every 4 weeks, it kept getting progressively worse and worse and worse and less interesting and more like continuity issues and so stupid and like Judy Bagwell on a forklift stuff. Like, he hasn't gone there yet, but like he keeps finding things where I'm like, that could be interesting. All right, they blew through that. Now what? And it's like it comes back to the hot shotting, and like for a while it seemed like he had stopped all the hot shotting, and then like he did the EO match with Rhea, and that was really to get to War Games, and it's like, okay, so really you're still hot shotting, you're just not hot shotting as much. And it's just like, if you just stopped altogether, I think you could I think you can get yourself back on balance. Like, at least in the men's division, the women's division, they pretty much, they don't have these same issues. I don't know why, but they just don't.
Yeah, that's a point. Yeah, and again, one of the commenters on my column was making the quite what I thought was quite a good point, just about with NXT in watching it sometimes because they're throwing so much like crazy stuff at the wall quite more often than not. It's like even though they're the counter programming, it's like they're the ones afraid to fail. It's just throwing as many things to try and grab your attention compared to AEW where they're taking risks quite often, like not afraid to fail with something. A case in point would be MJF and Chris Jericho doing a musical number. Like, if that's not a risk, I don't know what is. It's just, one side is, again, running ladder matches 3 times in a month because ladder matches are, like, guaranteed and people will love them. It's like, I mean, yeah, I'm one of those people. I think I was saying after last week, like, yeah, I really enjoy ladder matches. Never want to see one again. I just want a bigger break from wrong time of the year to get this feeling. I just want a bit of a break from ladder matches. But yeah, so with AEW, it just feels like they're a bit more free to take risks and things and try things out. Whilst NXT, just the commentators are making the point, it's like they're a bit afraid to fail, just trying to hold on a little bit
while failing.
Yeah, yeah,
it's weird. Like they get their teeth kicked in, and then like they still and whatever. It's weird. Like I mean, obviously, it's a weird situation. Like, I think they're at the point now where like they should just realize they can't compete and do their show, and yet and still, I feel like they're not doing their show because I remember what the show used to be, and this ain't it.
It feels like I don't expect them to leave because at the end of the day, they're counter programming. So as soon as we saw it, like with both shows when one of them wasn't there. Be it NXT, be it AEW, both of their numbers went up. And
by like 200,000 apiece, both of them.
Yeah. So you're seeing it, the fan base is like, yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, both shows doing well. Yeah, but that's why they're on the same day. As in, yeah, one of them moves, the other one, and they technically it's like, oh, you both benefit. Like, yeah, but the other one benefits, and that's enough. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think that was when the days were soon announced, and I think it was AEW got announced as being on Wednesday after the news was coming out that they were trying to get Tuesdays, and NXT then got announced for Wednesdays, and immediately someone just asked Meltzer, like, "Oh, why do you think NXT's on a Wednesday?" He's like, "Because Dynamite's on a Wednesday." Thought that was pretty clear. It's just yeah, and like again, personally, as a wrestling fan, that means we get with the special shows and things where we do get beginning of this year, January 6th, we've got both of them putting on special shows. Like AEW brought in Snoop Dogg. It's like counter program that NXT. So that's where. Also, I love apparently your reports coming out of like WWE already showing a bit of grumpiness that Snoop Dogg's going on to AEW. It's like, but you're Sasha Banks' cousin. You're our Snoop.
Right. It's like, well, you're a WWE Hall of Famer. It's like, well, how many other people are WWE Hall of Famers that are in AEW?
Well,
like,
Sting.
You know, like
Sting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Snoop Dogg. Like, I'm sure I've already demonetized this episode, so I'm not going to say what I want to say. But like, Snoop doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care about that. Like, Snoop Dogg is, you know, he's on the show with Cody, that talent show thing that he's doing. So he's doing the cross promotion thing. And plus it's Snoop Dogg. Like, Snoop will show up anywhere and be his charismatic, gregarious self, and that's the end of the story. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait till he's doing commentary on AEW, because it's like they need to just get out of his way and let him just be himself. Like, he can say he doesn't have to know anything about anything, and he still finds a way to like make it funny.
Like over here, he's the face of Just Eat. Is Just Eat a thing in America?
Maybe.
It's like like a big online thing which brings all of the like food delivery places like all into one online app, and you go on to Just Eat to order from the different fast food restaurants and things, or like takeaways especially. Yeah, So somehow they got Snoop Dogg, and over here he's advertising like takeaway stuff. So that's a random cross-international advertising thing for some reason. Like, how did Just Eat get Snoop Dogg? That's really weird. But yeah, I can't remember why we're talking about Snoop Dogg. He's on AEW.
Oh, because he's going to be on the AEW show.
Oh, yeah,
we're talking about the competing January 6th shows.
That's it, yeah. So we're getting
New Year's Evil that's happening after the New Year's.
Yeah, and immediately people just posted pictures of Evil from New Japan. Like, he's debuting! It's just, no.
I didn't see that, but that's funny.
That's why it's called New Year's Evil. It's literally about evil. Is it? No.
Please no. Please no.
Nah, Karrion Kross is winning the championship or something like that. I don't know. Baddie's going to win a championship. It doesn't matter what. One of the titles a baddie's going to win because it's evil and it's in your face like that. Yeah. Anyway,
just as long as New Japan's evil does not show up on NXT, please no. Like, I understand who his fiance is, but please no, don't do it. I don't want it.
With Dick Togo as well. I found it funny. Like the first time Dick Togo showed up, my Twitter was like, "Oh my god, that's Dick Togo! It's amazing!" And within a week, they're like, "Oh, Dick Togo, for God's sake!"
Right.
It's so funny.
Right. Enough with this freaking wire choking people, man. Enough.
Anyway, I'll be honest. If it wasn't for keeping it strong style, I wouldn't have followed New Japan at all in this little while. I fatigued myself covering the G1 with Sir Sam. It was just, in terms of keeping up with this show and everything, and doing the G1, watching it every day it was out, and getting the column out in time every week. It's like, yeah, I fatigued myself. I was not ready. Like, normally you get the G1 blues, and you start to miss your New Japan for a bit. But I've realised this year, that period of the G1 blues, that's a good thing because I get to reset after this massive tournament. This year it was like right into Power Struggle, right into Best of Super Juniors. Like, there was no downtime for me. So when it came to Best of Super Juniors World Tag League, I'm just like, I've got nothing. I've got no energy for this. So thank you to the Keeping It Strong Style podcast. Keeping me informed, at least. Anyway, minute to the end of NXT. We've dilly-dallied all over the place on random different topics.
Sure did.
Yeah, I finished my Raw review in like 30 minutes this week. Like, I had nothing.
Oh, yeah.
There was just like no extra things to say. Just got it done. Regular in the chat, a site cancel, was just it was like, what? This is over so quickly. He's like, I've got nothing else to say. I've got through everything. Anyway, so I'll be back on Monday back on Tuesday for the Monday Night Raw review next week, and it's TLC after that. I think wisely, I'm planning to take 2 weeks off from doing this show over Christmas and New Year's. There's end of year stuff which I'll be involved in, even if it's just written, I'll be involved in end of year things. So it's always a busy time for anyone covering wrestling, the end of year stuff. So that'll still be happening. Just I won't be doing the NXT Raw reviews for a couple of weeks after TLC. It needs, rest, sleep. We're still in a pandemic. So organising family things in a pandemic, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. It's going to happen. Anyway, yeah, we've got a vaccine. Suck it. Anyway. Anyway, I'll be also got Cyberpunk to play. So that's another thing. Get Cyberpunk for Christmas. So hopefully there's a patch out for Matthew. So the game's not broken when I play it. Anyway, I've got to get off this tangent. I'll be on Christmas stuff any second now. So I'll be back on Tuesday and Thursday next week with these reviews. I've also been regularly streaming on Twitch over at The Implications with 2 S's. I'm currently playing Death Stranding as it's £15 on the PlayStation Store. So I can't remember what it is in dollars. It might be like $20 on the PlayStation Store. So highly worth your money if you've not bought that game. Yeah, so I'm walking around as Norman Reedus carrying lots of boxes. So that's fun. So if you want to check that out, I think I'll be streaming that tomorrow as well. I don't know. Wait and see. And also, I also follow Wrestling Shorts on the Twitch as well. We're guessing on his channel quite a lot too as well. Anything else? Rich Latter was in the chat loads. He does Twitch. Go to Rich's Twitch as well. James, is there anything you want to plug?
You can follow One Nation Radio on Twitter. You can also follow Social Suplex That's a network that hosts One Nation Radio. You can follow me on Twitter at JamesBoyd87. Like you mentioned, all the year-end stuff, we're about to get into it. Like, I'm in the process of going through the earlier shows in the year and formulating the best of 2020 edition for the show. Also, we had the year-end shows last year where we brought in you in for the WWE portion of 2019. We talked for a few hours, a couple hours.
If it was like you and Rich. You were like, we need someone who's actually watched it. So if you could. Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about the point I pointed out. I was like, I went to Cage Match and I went and looked at like the top matches in WWE in 2019 and like only like 18 of the top 15 matches were the main roster. So yeah, that was another highlight of that show. But like, yeah, we did one for we paired that and put that as a part 1, part 2 with AEW's 2019. We also did a second version where we put New Japan 2019 with Stardom's 2019. And we also did a preview for our award show. So like, we're going to be getting all of that. We're going to get the band back together and getting all that up and running in the next couple weeks and get a schedule out for how this is going to roll out between now and when we eventually do our award show, probably in mid-January. So that's what I'm in the process of doing. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at the Damn Implicat. That's damn as in damn. I've been saying for years I'm going to find a different way to say that, and it's not happened. Yeah. Also, I've just realised on the little display I've got for this video, it's like there's an arrow going down in the middle of the screen, and that's completely unplanned. I've got our 2 kind of like nameplates on there with our Twitter handles on it. And I gotta go through the middle of either side of our videos. I didn't even mean that. That looks awesome. Great. Anyway, so I'll be back on Tuesday. And I might be putting out a column. I don't know. I realised when I posted, because again, I fatigued myself with G1 and I didn't write anything until my column this week. So I took a big old break. Properly fatigued. And my first column back's moaning about NXT. So maybe a positive one next week. Again, like if you say anything positive about AEW or anything negative against WWE, you get certain types of comments. So this past week, all of us in the Economist chat, just every one of us is like, we've made friends this week. Just Winter is Coming was amazing, and NXT was a bit War Games was fine type of thing. So there's a lot of people. Yeah, it's just the jokes constantly just on Twitter, obviously, just of where's our money, Tony? We're paid by you, Tony. Where's our money? We're not. Not once been paid. Not once, James. Not once. No, please.
I mean, I like a lot of different wrestling promotions. Like, if anybody wants to, do I need to make a cash app so people can just, hit me for influence? Yeah. If I guess, are we pro wrestling influencers? Is that?
Okay.
Let's get off air. Let's get off air. The idea of thinking of that now is just like, let's get off air. It's time to get off air now.
We'll say a little behind the scenes thing. I am on AXS TV's list of influencers, like wrestling.
Really?
Thing. Yeah. So, not to brag, I mean, it's of like 300. So there's quite a few people on the list. But I'm on it. I'm on the list. I'll take it. Anyway, yes, we're going to sign off the show now. It is. Oh, God, it's 3:20. Jesus Christ. I need to, actually get out the podcast version of this. Anyway, with that, I bid you adieu. And James bids you ta for now. And